it's an if. If we had faith that we could actually have free cash certified within, because what we have to call it at least 4 weeks in advance, that we actually would have that taken care of come middle of February, would be an option as we usually do, that we could have 3 separate items, one for an override, fill in the amount by motion, another option being, amend the budget and then fill it in by motion, and the third being use X dollars of free cash, fill it in by motion, so everybody would at least know what the 3 options are. We wouldn't have the exact dollar amounts until closer to, but that's legal that we could go ahead and do that. And I know, so my concern is if we push off any farther than that, then it gets to be a little ridiculous, because then it would, common sense would say, well, we should just hold it with the annual town meeting. But as we have said before, if the town votes to not make cuts, if the town votes to not use free cash or, in stabilization, and to not have an override, we pretty much would have to shut down the town for about a month, because what we're looking to cut is about 11% of the operating budget. So if we get to May, there's only May and June left. So, we'd really be talking about pretty much shutting down as much as we can for those last 2 months. So that would be my concern with waiting until annual town meeting. I'm not sure what the expense is for a special town meeting, because obviously we don't have poll workers or anything that need to get paid, but there obviously is an expense and aggravation, obviously, of townspeople for having to come. But those were my concerns with pushing off a special town meeting any farther than we already are. Because I was hopeful about the last override. Personally, I'm not too hopeful about another one. So I think that we are likely going to be looking at cuts or repeating the same habit of using our free cash and stabilization to fund ourselves. So the more time we have to figure that out, or what combination, probably the better. So instead of making those cuts over 2 months, we'd have the luxury of 4 months to make it up.
And I'm not strongly convinced that we're going to get enough out of free cash to cover the whole shortfall. So if we do have to make cuts, Ken's exactly right. It's better to do it over 3 or 4 months than 1 or 2 months.
Any ideas on dates?
Piece of information, according to the town clerk is the expert, but a town meeting special costs the same as the regular, $3,000. 26, 27, 28, depends on how many people show up, whether there's a special ballot, under 3,000, 2,500.
Yeah,
Just so you
town
know.
council will be there.
Yeah.
So, I'm looking at February as a short month. We have had town meetings in March.
Yeah, I think the very beginning of March is probably
Yeah.
reasonable.
Maybe the 4th or the 6th.
Yeah, so if we call it, if we set a date on the 27th of January for the town meeting, would still be within the time frame if we did it like the first week in March.
How many days?
14 and then 14. The minimum is 14 for state law, and then it's another 14 by our bylaw. We have to keep the warrant open.
28 to 20.
Is it Tuesday preferable to a Thursday, or Wednesday's Ash Wednesday, so we might want to skip that. Tuesday is like,
Well, we can,
just
we
figure
have
that out, yeah.
2 weeks to think about
Yeah.
a date in March, plus to get in contact with the town clerk and the schools to see if this will all work out.
So, town clerk, and perhaps she could contact the school for an open date in March
Right,
What are you setting all these?
for a special town meeting.
right. Then once we get that information, then we can decide whether to vote on it in January. You know, if we have the numbers of free cash on the 27th, that's gonna help too. So, there's no guarantees on
Like I
that.
said, I was hoping close of middle of the month, but,
Yeah, but that's close to the end of the month.
talking with the, town
Yeah.
calendar, is looking like, just all the cleanup, all little things.
Always setting all these-
reconcile some things.
Meetings without taxes. Ain't there a certain time you gotta set your tax rate? Why are you setting all these meetings without setting your tax rate? How?
I'm not sure when the tax rate was set last year.
When is it supposed to be set? What's state law say? Winston's already got theirs set. They got their free cash, now they know how much there
We
is.
missed the December 31st
I
deadline.
know, so,
Well, we did, it's done.
well, what's your tax
They
rate,
made
what's your
this.
tax rate set for?
We don't have a tax rate yet, because we
Why
haven't
isn't
figured
it?
out
Why-
what we got.
What?
Okay.
Why don't you set a tax rate?
Can't be done yet.
Why can't?
All right, excuse me,
Close the books, why
Board
they
of
closed?
Selectmen don't set the tax.
excuse me. No more outbursts, please. So we have the information on the available days. Did you get the information on available days?
I'll contact the town clerk tomorrow.
That sounds great.
Yep.
Well, Carol usually calls the school.
Yeah, she usually, but, you know, I'll send an email around when she has contacted the schools and got some, she usually picks more than one and gives you the options. First week of March.
All right, the next item is the annual town meeting date, and I believe it was, the last town meeting, it was voted, decided it's gonna be a Saturday in May. They'll hopefully start, I think the plan was you start a little early and perhaps complete it in a day,
One day,
a marathon.
marathon session.
People out.
So it would be a date and time.
Yeah, and check with the schools too.
And schools will be the school staffing, to open the building and so forth.
Yeah, on a Saturday.
It's either gotta be the 10th or the 17th, we'll do it in May. 24th's a little bit late.
Yeah. Well, I think we have, according to our bylaw, it has to be so many days since the election, after the election.
Yeah, because the election's over this year.
It's the new one. Just,
I know.
check it on the website. It's 10 or 14 days
Yeah, I think it's better,
after
it
the.
says within 14. Can't be any more than that.
Yeah, but we have a new bylaw that moved it from Tuesday to Saturday. And that bylaw may have amended the language. Just don't remember it off the top of my head what the new bylaw says.
Yeah, so that's what we should start thinking about that anyway.
So depending on the election date.
I think it's the sixth.
I think it's the 6th, it's a
Yeah.
Tuesday.
Like a week later than last year.
May 6th.
Yeah, because last year it was the 30th because of the special election. Yeah.
That's right, yeah, for the, you guys had that.
Yeah.
For the senator, whatever.
Yep.
So it's May.
So if it would be the Saturday, 10 days after the 6th, 13, 14 days, typically, what would that be, May
17th.
17th?
Either the 17th or the 24th, because after the election, there'll be new members of the board, and I believe there's something in the bylaw after the election,
Julie, you got graduation or something about.
the town meeting, or the board meets a week after, right after the election, and the organization and stuff, and then the town meeting.
The 24th might be up, that's Memorial Day weekend. It's not necessarily out, but it's early this year, Memorial Day.
Still
It's the 26th.
Unlikely event.
Yeah, right. We'll get through things quickly.
Or maybe
17th, but the first.
Yes.
Nope, 26th.
May.
26th.
Right.
Memorial Day stuff. Yeah.
Oh, yeah, so,
17th to 31st.
so the election is the sixth.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That makes it easy.
If the election is the sixth, it would be May 17th.
Okay.
Because that would, a week later, would be,
Right.
da-da-da,
That'll be our target then.
and then
17th.
17th May, Saturday.
So whichever way we go, we have to keep the doors open until 17.
I can cook it.
All right,
I don't.
again, that would be an issue, contact Carol and
Yeah.
check on the school.
Yeah.
So,
I'll include it in the discussion tomorrow with her. Feedback.
So, the last item,
Discuss time.
and a start time for that meeting, be it, I don't know, 10 a.m., 3 p.m.
I'd do 10, people, like, different high school groups could sell stuff, lunch or snacks.
Or
Take a
9:30
recess.
to noon, and then you take a break for lunch. That's what we do in my town. Then the school cafeteria, somebody supplies the lunch. It's a fundraiser for them. People can leave for an hour, come back and buy lunch there and convene at 1 for the balance of the day.
And I would say if you go past 6, you take another hour from 6 to 7. And come back.
Where are you getting
Gotta
this
be
from?
Gotta be optimistic, we'll knock it out in one day.
After about 4 o'clock, there's not enough people to even have a vote on
Right.
whether you stay until 6.
Okay. So I guess, like, a check on that for like a 9:30 a.m. start time.
Okay.
All right. Any other considerations? All right, the last thing on the agenda is to conduct annual review or evaluation of the town treasurer. I would ask the board, each member filled out one. I didn't get to see or read all of them. I spoke with Dan, if it's agreeable, if it's, then we can have a vote by the board if so required, or so wanted. I would take each member's eval and construct one eval based off of all of yours. Objective and subjective, such as, you know, the comments, what if the weak points, strong points, et cetera. Two satisfactories, one unsatisfactory, one this, kind of like average it out.
Yep.
And then have an evaluation to present to Dan, either, you know, individual or an open meeting. I think it would be easier, more productive and smoother just to have one
One
to
form.
do it.
Yeah.
Rather than trying to, right now on the spot, is bird moment or certain one.
No, close to 10 o'clock at night, probably not a good idea.
So,
So I will make a motion that the chairman compile the review of the town treasurer from the individual evaluations provided by the Board of Selectmen. Second.
okay, motion made, seconded. And if I could just have your, I have yours email.
You have mine?
I think I have yours. All right, motion made, seconded. A vote on the motion. Julie?
Yes.
Doug?
Yes.
Ken?
Yes.
And yes. All right. 2150. Last item, selectmen's comments. Any, Julie? Any concerns, comments, or anything?
Be sure to vote tomorrow, 11 to 7, high school gym.
Doug?
I do. I just want to publicly, since this will be Jeff's last selectmen's meeting, I want to thank him for his service that he spent with Templeton. And I said this the other night, that, when Jeff came, Templeton was a really rocky ship on the verge of sinking, and Jeff has certainly helped us. Jeff, I think, has helped us, though, get the ship a little bit more stable. I mean, it's certainly not smooth sailing yet, but he's also brought, a level of professionalism to, certainly the town, I think, is run a little bit more professionally now than it has been in the past, at least for the 10 years that I've been here. So just thank you again, and
Thank you, Doug.
I know you'll do well.
I should have brought the hat, Accountant Fred Aponte has a famous saying, and the fire chief had this embroidered on a hat for Fred, I have one as well. We'll get there. Doesn't say when, it just says, you'll get there. Keep going, you'll get there.
Ken?
No, I would like to echo Doug's comments to thank Jeff for his service to the town. And I think that he is, although I'm sure inside at times he was ready to scream, as we all are, that he has been able to kind of present a cool, collected front, which I think is good when dealing with these matters that can become so impassioned. So thank you for your service, and you will be sorely missed, and best of luck in future endeavors.
Thank you, Ken.
I'm sure they can't be any worse than now.
I will say something in reply to that. I saved this quote for this time. A very eloquent quote that a great American spoke years ago, and I'll shorten it just for the sake of this long meeting. We'll get there. Well, how long will it take? I came to say to you this afternoon, however difficult the moment, however frustrating the hour, it will not be long. How long? Not long because the arc of the moral universe is long, but it bends toward justice. Martin Luther King.
Right. Bravo.
I Googled Leominster. You do hang a right to get to where you're going, but there's a couple other turns in there. Just to make your day, I will come over and visit.
You know where to find me.
Maybe stir your pot and make your job interesting. I do want to thank you, not only for what you've done on the job and how you've conducted yourself, but also for coming back a second time after a very turbulent time, and you really had no reason and no expectation of us to come back. And I suppose that speaks to your character and your professionalism, and you will be missed, my friend, very much.
Thank you.
And I think I speak for the majority of the town. You will be very missed, my friend. And thank you for your service.
Thank you.
And if you get a little bored, come to a selectmen's meeting in Templeton.
I might do that.
On my last note, there's an election tomorrow. Please go vote. Doesn't matter who you vote for, but please go vote. Sometime tomorrow night, we will have a new member of the Board of Selectmen. Wednesday, I assume they will be sworn in. And my thoughts were to, my question to the board would, do you think I have a personal opinion, but is it appropriate to have a meeting a week from now, or wait till the regular meeting on the 27th? Just, because, we have things to do. The interim administrator,
As long as it's Tuesday.
and stuff to
It
do.
would have
Yeah.
to be Tuesday,
It
because
would have to be
Monday's
Tuesday,
not.
20 is Martin Luther King Day.
Is that meeting?
If you, I just thought it was a thing to do.
The 20th is a holiday.
There's some things that can come up. When I got onto the board after the regular election through a recount, I requested a reorganization of the board, and I believe that this new member, at least the option should be there, whether they wish to do that or wish to just leave the board as it is. But since I requested it, I think it's only fair to allow them to have a say in that, and at least perhaps have a vote by the board. And again, this is just, I think, a courtesy to a selectman coming on after midterm, but in the middle of things, rather than at a rather expected scheduled election. That's my personal feeling.
Well, I
Yes.
appreciate your sentiment. I'm sure that the newly elected select person would as well. I think that the policies and procedures that we adopted said that we would reorganize annually after but I think we just adopted them today, so.
Discuss, there are some other things that we can discuss as far as like the interim. I just
Oh,
thought
I
as
see.
as a courtesy
Oh.
that it's a new person, if it's required. And depending on perhaps maybe the answers we get here tomorrow might justify sooner rather than later for a special and annual. Anyway, that was just my thought.
Yeah, I'm fine with it.
All right, so we doing it on the 21st? Do you have a meeting?
Sounds good.
Plan on it, just in case.
All right, I put it in my calendar, we're good.
And on that note, would anyone have a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Second,
Made and seconded. Julie?
yes.
Doug?
Yes.
Ken?
Yes.
And yes.